رب العالمين صلى الله على محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Baqarah, Ayah 184, the meaning of which, so whoever amongst you is ill or on a journey, then an equal number of days are to be made up. Sheikh Al-Allama, Sheikh Salih Al-Fawzan, he said, the obligation of fasting is directed to both residents and travelers. Residents are those who are not traveling around, like us. We are considered residents, muqimin, because we're not moving around. And the travelers are those who are traveling here and there, moving around. Healthy and ill people. Ritually pure or impure people. Ritually pure are those who don't have anything to prevent them from praying. Like, for example, a woman who doesn't have her menses. So this one will be considered ritually pure, because she can fast and she can also pray. The one who is impure, ritually impure, those are the women, two types. Either those who have their menses, or those who are going through the postnatal bleeding after childbirth. So those right there, they have to wait until they become clean. So they cannot fast. If they fast, it will be impermissible for them to fast, because they are not ritually pure. So they have to wait until they become pure, and then they can fast. They can make up the fast from Ramadan. So there's two types. The woman who is going through her period, so if she misses some days, she has to make it up after Ramadan. Likewise, the woman who gave birth, Nufasa. That one, usually, the average is 40 days. Some women, they become cleaner a lot earlier than that. So it all depends when they get pure, become pure. طيب. The Shaykh said, such as menstruating women and women in postnatal bleeding period, and those in a state of unconsciousness. Those in a state of unconsciousness. Somebody loses their conscious, right? So those, they are not responsible at the time when they lose their conscious. They're not responsible. But once that is over, then they have to make it up. They have to make up the fast. طيب. So the Shaykh, he said, all of that are accountable for the obligation of fasting. They are commanded to observe it so as to be aware that it is obligatory upon them, and that it has to be observed whether at its due time or later, in the case of a legal excuse. So either they fast when they don't have that excuse. If they have an excuse, then they will make up later. They will make up those days later. Shaykh Hafidahullah Ta'ala, he said, it is obligatory upon some of them to perform it as its prescribed time, namely healthy and resident people. So they have to fast. They have to fast. They don't have an excuse. Someone who is healthy. If someone is unhealthy, someone, for example, with a chronic sickness, al-marad al-muzmin, like diabetes, cancer, and the like, those, of course, they cannot fast. And they cannot make it up either. So those, they expiate. Half a sa' of dry food. But if they want to put like vegetables and meat with it to complement for it, this is better. طيب. The Sheikh, he said, excluding menstruating women and women in a state of postnatal bleeding. So those are exceptions. Meaning that those women, they have to wait until they become clean and then they can make up those days that they had missed in Ramadan. The Sheikh, he said, often are only obligated to make up for it later. Namely, menstruating women and women in a state of postnatal bleeding, and those who are too ill to observe it at its due time and can observe it later. However, there are some who may choose either whether to observe it at its prescribed time or later, such as a traveler and ill people who can observe fasting with difficulty but without causing them harm. طيب. Now, the Sheikh, he mentioned, for example, someone who is ill or someone who's a traveler. Because sometimes a person may be ill, but they still can fast. They still can fast. Like, for example, the Sheikh Al-Uthaymin, rahimahullah, he mentioned that those who are ill, they are of three categories. Three categories. The first category, someone, it's very difficult for him to fast. Right? So if he fasts, he will harm himself. That one is haram for him to fast. Right? Because Islam came for the protection. Yeah, for the protection and warding off harm and evil. So for that particular person, it's haram for him to fast. Because if he does, he will harm himself. The second category, someone who can fast but with difficulty. Al-ulama, they say it's makruh for him to fast. Makruh means disliked. Even though if he fasts, his fast is valid. But it's disliked because of hardship. Right? But he could do it with hardship. طيب. The third category is someone who doesn't feel any hardship. He doesn't feel any hardship, right? Even though he's sick, but his sickness does not affect his fast. So that person, alhamdulillah, the ulama, they say, he can fast. He can fast even though, if he wished to take rukhsa, the concession, he can. The concession means the permission that Allah gave him in the Quran. That's called rukhsa, concession. Okay, now what is the rukhsa? Allah said in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيدًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. Whoever amongst you is ill or on a journey, then they are to be made up later on. And he did not specify whether the traveler has difficulty or not. Yeah, have you noticed? So it's general. So if you're traveling, for example, and you don't feel any hardship, you can fast. There's nothing wrong with it. Like truck drivers. Some of them, they fast. They say, I don't have no problem with it. It's okay. Alhamdulillah, there is no... But if it's difficult for you, then you should take the rukhsa, the concession and permissibility that Allah has given you. Look at this Sharia, how beautiful it is. طيب. The Shaykh, he said, نعم. As for the one who breaks fasting during Ramadan due to a legal excuse, and then the excuse is over, such as a traveler who returns back, a menstruating woman, or a woman in a state of postnatal bleeding who becomes ritually pure, a child who reaches puberty, they are to observe fasting for the rest of the day. If the excuse is over in the daytime. Okay, now, the Shaykh is saying, now we have a child. This child, he didn't have to fast because he did not reach the age of what? Puberty. Sin al-bulugh. He didn't. But he is accustomed to fasting because his parents, they encourage him to fast, right? If you fast, I will give you a gift, I will give you this and this. So he gets encouraged. And then the child, he or she fast during the day. So will they get the reward or not? Will they get the reward? Yes, they will get the reward. And the parents also will get the reward. Because Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith, in the sound hadith, الدال على الخير كفاعله. The one who guides someone to do something good. It's like he actually did it. Look. So anything that you teach your child, you will be rewarded for it. So your child teach other kids, you get the thawab and the reward. Allahu Akbar. Amazing. طيب, now going back. Let me just finish this particular, that way I don't get confused, you know. So, this child, he reached puberty during the day of Ramadan. During the day. This is what the Sheikh is talking about. During the day. Not night. We're not talking about night. We're talking about the day. Okay, let's say this child reached puberty at 12 p.m., the middle of the day. The Sheikh, he said he has to observe the fast. Someone may say, why? He did not start the day fasting. How can he observe the fast? You know why? Al-ulama, they say, لِحُرْمَةِ الشَّهْرِ, for the sacredness of the month. Because it's a sacred month. They have to respect it. You see? You see, Ikhwan? You have to respect it. Likewise, the woman who was menstruating, right? She had an excuse, a legal excuse, not to fast. She will eat, but she has to eat in private, not in public in front of the people. No, it's not ape. No, it's not permissible. It's shameful. So she has to, be in privacy, right? To eat. Likewise, the traveler. Traveler also doesn't have to fast. But he cannot go in front of the Muslims and start eating and drinking. No, this is not permissible to do. طيب.
That's a question.
Let me just finish this, inshallah. So now the Sheikh is saying the traveler, the menstruating woman, and the woman who gave birth. Okay, when the traveler becomes stationary, he's no longer moving around. Okay, can he still break his fast? Or he has to fast?
Can he still break his fast?
No, yes, I'm asking. Now he returns back home. He's stationary now. He's no longer moving around.
He has to fast.
He has to fast. Okay. طيب. What about the menstruating woman? She became pure, clean. Does she have to fast now? Yes. So this is what the Sheikh is talking about. So even if the traveler comes back in the middle of the day and he reach home in the middle of the day of Ramadan, the Sheikh is saying he has to abstain from eating and drinking. Why? Because he has to respect the month. He has to respect the month now.
Even in private?
Huh?
Even in private?
In private is okay.
In private is okay.
In private is okay. But in public, in front of people, no. He has to respect.
Is it only for travelers for that, or for everybody who's
There are two opinions on the scholars.
Okay.
So Sheikh Al-Fawzan, he's saying that he cannot do it, period. Other scholars, they said yes, he can. Because he had an excuse in the beginning of the day, so he doesn't have to fast the other half of the day. Wallahu alam, this opinion seems to be stronger, except that he should not do it in public.
Yeah, because he's going to fast
Yes, he's going to make it up anyway.
Yeah.
He's going to make it up anyway, so he should not do it. That was the question you had?
Yeah.
So there are two opinions of the scholars on that. طيب. The Sheikh said they are to observe fasting for the rest of the day. You see? He's saying that they have to observe the rest of the day. If the excuse is over, so they're no longer traveling and the like in the daytime, and to make up for that day afterwards, yes, absolutely, they have to make it up. Similarly, if people are informed in the daytime or after daybreak that the month of Ramadan has already begun, they are to observe fasting for the rest of the day and to make it up for that day later after Ramadan. Like, for example, we were waiting for the moon, someone to tell us about the moon. So then we had this call from the brother Ismail. He's in Pennsylvania, and then it's very clear. he could see the moon. He told me he could see the moon. So he calls, he said, you know what? I've seen the moon. After Fajr. And we had no intention to fast, right? We had no intention to fast. So we did not make the intention to fast. Because the intention in the obligatory act of worship, like Ramadan, the intention has to be prior to Fajr. Has to be prior to Fajr. قبل الفجر. Have to be. But in voluntary fast, Monday, Thursday, sunan. The fast that is optional. That one, for example, after Fajr you decided to fast. Can you fast? We're talking about optional. Siyam al-nafila. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But Ramadan, you cannot do that. It has to be before Fajr. It has to be because the hadith, Prophet ﷺ, whoever does not make the intention before Fajr, there is no siyam for him. من لم يبيت النية من الليل فلا صيام له. Whoever does not, he did not have the intention to fast from that night before Fajr, then if he had the intention after Fajr, then he has to make up the day. Got it? So now somebody was informed after Fajr or in the middle of the day, they have to make up that day. This is what the Shaykh said. Hafidhahullah ta'ala. So that's it. That's the end of this chapter. That's the end of this chapter. So inshallah, next week, we're going to study the beginning and the end of the fasting day. When does the day start and when does it end? I like the work of Sheikh Al-Fawzan. Is very organized in chapters and very simple. And the Sheikh, Salih Al-Fawzan, actually he gave this durus. Al-Mulakhas Al-Fiqhi on the Saudi radio, which is called Noor Ala Darb. You're familiar with it, yes? Noor Ala Darb. So Noor Ala Darb is a program, a religious program, where they invite only the senior scholars to answer questions of the public. The people can call, can send questions even from outside Saudi Arabia, like Egypt, Sudan, and other, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, all over. They send questions to the senior scholars and then they answer. And also, in this radio, they have durus. They have classes like this. So the series, like Sheikh Al-Fawzan, he gave this on Noor Ala Darb. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect the Sheikh and grant him long life upon al-birr wa taqwa. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him good health. And may Allah grant us all Jannat al-Firdaus and unite us as neighbors with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam والصحابة والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان يوم الدين وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله على محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم جزاكم الله خير.